I'd like to start this session off by thanking Kirk this morning for making us completely aware that October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And you know, quite frankly, though, if you would, because the consortium or the collaborative needed to release me to work a lot on this for the last month, Kirk has picked up the ball and run with the preparation of the Valley PLC, and I think he did a fantastic job. So everyone, please give Kirk a big hand. Plus, it was the most stimulating information I've been exposed to yet today. My name is George Welsh. I'm superintendent in Center, and I tell you what, going around this morning from PLC to PLC was an absolute pleasure, and I'm just kind of going to give you a roundup of the kind of things I saw. I saw some complaining. And you know what? That's okay. I think some people have to work through some things to understand where they are right now and to understand where we're going. And I guess my best advice to everyone is we've been there. You know, I've been there at a point where the administrators don't really know that much better than the teachers and what we're trying to accomplish. My confidence in this process, however, is in that the work is in the right hands, because there wasn't a room I didn't go into this morning that good, deep, quality professional discussion wasn't going on. Sometimes it was talking about the things that we're concerned about, but most times it was talking about how can I do this better? How do I do this? Is there a better resource with which to do this? Am I doing this right? And I would like you guys in this room to, you know, compare yourself to other professions. If we were a room full of lawyers, if we were a room full of doctors, if we were a room full of engineers, what might we behave like? And based on what I've seen, I think we're acting just as we would like to as professions. We're trying to sort through some of these many changes we've been faced with trying to implement and doing our best. Just a few quick themes that seem to be popping up, and it's work I hope that we can do when we have all the administrators together, and I'm going to tell you exactly where that's going to be because it wasn't on the schedule. So if you evaluate teachers, whether you're a building administrator, an assistant building administrator, if any such thing exists in this room, or if you're an instructional coach or something like that, we're meeting this afternoon. It's either in room 204 or 205. It's the one that the language arts team is not in. Language arts folks, help me. 205. So you guys are in 205, or okay, we'll be in 205. Okay, so that's going to be the room for the building leaders. And okay, I bet you I'll be in one of those rooms. Look for me, and I won't be in the room that Diane's in. It's upstairs in this building. Great. But one of the themes I've heard come out is that we as administrators need to get on the same page about what these expectations are, because when our teachers are getting into these PLCs, they're feeling like in some places they're being told one thing, in some places they're being told another. And I want to tell you that's not a bad thing, because we're all learning. We're all learning in parallel here, and so be patient with us, but certainly something we want to talk to about with administrators. The theme I'm seeing is the best work is going on teacher to teacher right now, not so much administrator to teacher, not so much staff developer to teacher, and I think that's important. Here's another theme I'm starting to hear as well, especially since most everyone raised their hand that they're concerned about implementing Senate Bill 191. A theme I'm hearing all throughout the Valley is, if I'm being held accountable for my students' performance, what's holding the students accountable for their performance. And so that's a conversation that I think it'd be worth striking up amongst the administrators in the Valley, amongst the teachers in the Valley, to make sure that the data we get back on TCAP or NWEA or whatever, quarterly assessments, is our students' best effort, so that we're planning to meet educational deficiencies that actually exist, that are not just being measured based on their effort. And so just some food for thought. The real reason I'm here to talk to you is because I have a pyramid scheme. Okay? And, oh, hey, I got one. Good. On the back of the pyramid diagram is the form we want every one of you, not now, but when you get back to your PLC, to spend a little bit of time discussing it with your teachers, your professional cohort, and then to turn it into whoever's leading that session, and then to make sure it gets back to either Kirk or me or any superintendent that you see standing around here at the end of the day, so we can get it for feedback. This is going to be important feedback for the finishing of the developing of this grant opportunity that we're working toward. Now, let me explain that. So, many of you might remember hearing the terms race to the top. In fact, what's brought us together is something called Race to the Top. It's Race to the Top Round 3. Race to the Top Round 1 was big chunks of dollars that states throughout the United States were competing for. Colorado just missed out on getting one of those gigantic grants going back when Dwight Jones was still commissioner. Round 2, we took another shot at it as a state, and we actually did worse the second round, and that was right after Dwight left and Robert Hammond became commissioner. I'm not blaming anyone there, but what I think we found as a theme in Colorado is folks in Washington, D.C. can't really conceptualize local control and small rural districts and how you pull a state together in a region like Colorado is in. So we got the Race to the Top booby prize. No pun intended, Kirk. And that is what has brought us together here today. And that is round 3, and that's not a lot of money that we've chosen to pool together as a region so we can set up opportunities for learning like this and talk about common curriculum and teaching strategies and such. Now there is a Race to the Top districts or consortiums opportunity. And here's what I understand the parameters are on this. There's going to be at least 25 awards go out all around the country. There are 5 states that are priorities. Colorado is one of those states. There are priorities for suburban schools with high-risk students, and there is listed as a priority to have a rural consortium. And we just happen to be in a very unique position, not only in Colorado, but probably in the United States, is that we have a rural consortium. And in fact, to the extent that so many people are interested in this, to encourage us to apply for this grant opportunity, that there's no way we would be able to actually write this grant if we just had to do it with the resources we have in the Valley. So CDE has basically dedicated a department to us to write this grant. It's the Innovation in Schools Department at CDE that's helping us do this. Colorado Legacy Foundation has assigned 2 people to help us write this grant. Your superintendents all around the Valley, your board members around the Valley have been engaged in conversations about this. We went immediately to the local UniServe unit in the Valley and talked about this thing is coming, and we agreed that a great way to make sure that teachers have a say in this thing is that at our October 12 All Valley PLC, we talk about what we're thinking about trying to accomplish, and we get your feedback, and we either continue in a direction that we're heading or we change some direction as we move forward. So the goal of this grant, by the way, is to personalize learning for students, and what that means can be a lot of things. You can come up with your own definition of personalized learning. But in the end, it comes down to what extent does a kid get to steer the direction they go, if the direction in the end is to be ready for whatever comes after school. And so let me explain the pyramid scheme that we've put together. That's kind of the blueprint concept of what we're thinking about accomplishing. Let me kind of explain what happens at each stage of the pyramid, and then if anyone has questions, I'd be happy to answer that. But I would really like you then to go back to your PLCs, give us some feedback in writing, and go on with the work you're trying to do. A pyramid, any good structure has to have a foundation, and our pyramid has a foundation at the bottom that's kind of labeled, it's supposed to be a brick color, but it's probably pink. And what we're saying we need to do this work is curriculum aligned to the state of Colorado Common Core Plus standards, which some of us have in various ways through Focal Point or through any of the work we've been doing locally, but we know it can be better, and we know we don't have it yet for things like music and art and PE and such. We need policy to tie us together in this consortium, and what I mean by that is we want to look a little bit more like, for you social studies folks, the Articles of Confederation, sort of a loose association of districts as opposed to the United States consolidating everyone together. And so we're trying to develop policies that will allow us to play together in this gigantic sandbox. We need to be able to pool our data together and then to pull it out to use it at the classroom level, at the student level, or at the district and consortium level if we're going to run this grant. And then we need to have a technology foundation to offer these personalized learning experiences to every kid in the Valley. And I'm going to tell you what this looks like, and I know there's some districts and schools out there that don't have it right now. This looks like sufficient broadband wavelength going into your school so that you can stream video, you could stream two-way video conferencing efforts and things like that. And I know that doesn't exist everywhere in the Valley. This would get us there. This means you would have a one-to-one device program for all your kids, at least grades 6 through 12, and we're even starting to kick around the idea of going down a little bit lower than that as far as the grade levels. This means that every one of you would have some kind of technology device in your classroom that you can use to support your teaching, and that might look like the beautiful smart boards that they have here in this in Sargent School. It might look like a Promethean board. It might look like some way to engage the students in the learning digitally with response devices, things like that. And it would, of course, have the infrastructure within the building, the wireless access points, the network in which to operate that on. And depending on where you go in the Valley right now, we understand that that looks different, but that's part of our foundation. Next big part of our foundation, and we take it across the whole pyramid because it's long, but also because it's important, is leadership and instructional staff development. And that means our principals, our building leaders, our superintendents need to be together on what's being expected of the system, and then work together with their staff to help bring that forward. And we know that if things are going to change somewhat for you guys in the classroom, and they are changing, whether we get this grant or not, because of Senate Bill 191 and some of these other things, that we have training that we have to provide for you so that you can successfully implement our plan. At the request of board members, and I think it's a wonderful request, we were asked to put in a foundational piece called Purposeful Parent Engagement and Education of Parents, K-12. And actually, we've changed that to pre-K-12. We need to, once the kid's out the chute, start getting parents get those kids ready to come to school to learn, and then as they're in school, we need to find purposeful ways for parents to be engaged with their kids' learning and the school to support what we're trying to accomplish. And so that's our foundation. These are things we have to do, these things we ought to be doing anyway, but this is kind of codifying it on paper as to what we'd like to accomplish. When you go above this, the red brickwork, that's the foundation, and my cool little stick figures who are walking on the sand and starting to approach the pyramid, what you will see is the ultimate goal, at the top, the sunrise, which is increased post-secondary workforce readiness. What we want is when we give our kid a diploma and they leave our schools, that they're ready to do whatever they're going to do, and that being ready might mean taken more college to accomplish a greater goal than we can even get them to. It might, though, be ready to just get into the workforce and do that well, whatever that's going to be, and preferably do it in a way that's going to earn them something better than a minimum wage. So that's what the ultimate goal is here, and that's kind of what the ultimate goal of school has been all along. No change, except that we want the tools that they have when they walk out of the building to be much greater than they have had in the past. And here's how we think we're going to get there based on this concept. The very bottom part of the pyramid says core early literacy intensive. We have this wonderful opportunity in the Valley right now where the Save the Children Foundation is actually working in all of our school districts, identifying at-risk families. And this is pretty close to right out of the chute concept here, is they're teaching parents how to engage their kids with literacy so that when they walk into our buildings, they're ready to learn to read at the level that we're expecting them to do that. And there isn't a kindergarten teacher in the Valley, there isn't a first grade teacher in the Valley, and so on down on those levels that wouldn't appreciate the heck out of that. That if you had kids who were more prepared to learn to read when they walked in your doors, that would be a big help. So that's where it starts. When they get to school, when they get to our buildings, we need to identify the kids who are performing below grade level, and we need to get them to grade level as quick as possible. And if you'd asked me, can this be done 3 years ago, my answer would have been, no matter how hard we work, I'm not sure we can. But what we've learned is if you're given a gigantic crowbar, and in the San Luis Valley in center, that crowbar has looked like the Lindemood Bell intervention techniques, that you can dislodge kids from performing consistently below grade level and get them moving toward grade level. And even if you do it right and long enough, you can get them to grade level. And so that core early literacy intensive looks like better resources for teaching reading, but most importantly, when the kids aren't getting it and we don't have the tools in our regular classrooms to get it, getting those interventions to them that move them closer to grade level. And our goal isn't like Colorado where everyone's going to read at grade level by the end of grade 3, but we're expecting kids to be pretty darn close to grade level or mostly at grade level by the time they're done with grade 5. And what we put in our little cloud there is moving from learning to read to reading to learn. Because if we have kids who can't read effectively, they're going to have a hard time participating in everything from that blue wording on up, because a lot of that is self-driven, independent type learning that they're going to need good reading skills to do. So moving up the pyramid, if you're thinking about the end of 5th grade and sometime during middle school, what we're looking at doing is putting resources into our system to use those one-to-one devices, to use that broadband, to create mastery-based sequential learning for kids. And here's the way I describe that. Was anyone in here in 6th grade math? One person, great. No one else? Okay. I was. I'm assuming you were. But what did it look like? You were put in 6th grade math in a situation in which you were expected to do the same thing everyone else was expected to do. And we know that that's probably not a reality. When you look at kids in 6th grade in something like math, you see that they run the spectrum of ability. And yet we try to teach them all at the same pace going forward. And so what our goal would be in that blue section would be to figure out the subject areas where it would be most appropriate. One of them we're thinking obviously would be math, where we take a kid where they are and we head them down the road to as far as they can go in that 1 year of time that we have to work with them in 6th grade math. And for every kid, that might be a different ending spot, and we'd be able to pick that up in 7th grade and 8th grade and so on. So that's what the mastery-based sequence is. The student-driven part of that, the concept there is that we want kids during middle school to start thinking about what the heck they're going to be when they leave school. Am I going to go on to college? And if so, what am I going to pursue? Am I going to go into the workforce? And if so, what skill do I hope to have? So on down the line. We're not asking them to decide. we're just asking them to start thinking about what those different opportunities are. Our biggest goal, and the counselors today doing some great work in their PLCs, would be that the ICAP process would help to guide this. That kids through the ICAP process would explore a wide range of options of things they can do upon graduation, and they would start focusing it, narrowing it down as they go up the pyramid. That brings us to the green section, chartreuse maybe, student-driven exploration of post-secondary options. And that's when students, as they're moving ahead at a pace that's logical to them, would start to look at those options of things they could do after they graduate from high school and start narrowing their focus and say, okay, I'm good at these things, and if you're good at these things, you might want to do this for a living, and therefore I'm starting to get down to 5, 6, 7 possible career options that I'm going to head toward. The top of the pyramid is the focused personalization, and that is maybe by the time you're a junior or senior in high school that you're starting to explore deeply some things. An example I might use with this is maybe I think I'm interested in the medical field. But the reality is the medical field's a pretty wide span, isn't it? And so maybe what I can do is start looking at what my career options would be in the medical field. And maybe it's an x-ray technician. Maybe it's being a doctor itself. Maybe it's being a surgeon. Maybe it's being a veterinarian, because I'm interested in animals, and that students during that time would get to take a closer look at that, be given some educational options to explore that, maybe even get the head start towards getting there, and that when we hand them their diploma, they're ready to go. So I know it's a pretty quick concept that I'm sharing with you. It involves a lot of things. Here's what it ultimately involves for you and for the Valley is between $18 and $20 million that could come in, most of it which would be spent on you because of the training you would get and the payment you would get for that training and the resources that would be put in your hands, and the benefit in the end coming out for kids that when we graduate a kid in the San Luis Valley, that whatever it is they wanted to explore, they're able to do that, okay? It's pretty rainy, I guess. Any questions about the general concept at all? Timelines, anything like that? Okay, so last thing, we want this feedback today. We're going to have a rough draft of the grant written itself out and posted on a website by Monday. Links to that website will be sent to your superintendents, who I hope pass them on to you. If you got nothing better to do, read this 70, 80 pages that we're going to have in the form of a grant and think about it and offer us feedback. The feedback on this will be taken and looked through and applied to the grant to improve it, to ensure better teacher buy-in. At the end of a couple weeks of review, we're going to go back to all your boards of education, to all your teacher associations, and say, do we have the thumbs up? Are you in with us to go for this? Or is there something in there that you're not comfortable with? And so that's a stopper for you. And so your district might step out of the consortium. And then we're going to submit this thing. We have to submit it on October 29th. We will know by Christmas if we have this grant, and you'll be hearing a lot about the next steps to what we're trying to do next spring if we have the grant to move forward. Okay, so.